Joining us right now is Glenn Hutchins. He's North Island's chairman. Glenn, just looking at PCE, the PCE came up 0.2%, but core PCE year over year was a little hotter than expected, 2.7% versus 2.6%. You think inflation is still out there and potentially going to rear back up?
I think we need to look at inflation, keep our eye on it. But I look more at kind of the current trend, and quarter over quarter was 2.2% for core PCE.
Yeah.
So it feels like that's the trend you're looking at. And, I think the combination, as I said a couple times ago, the combination of strong economic performance, the best economic performance in the G7, with inflation down to the 2 to 2.5 range, I think means that it's now looking increasingly likely that Jay Powell and his crew pulled off a soft landing. They've gotten us through this interest rate cycle, and now we're at a point where we've got 4-ish% unemployment, 2.5% two-year trend of growth, and inflation in the 2 to 2.5 point range. So I think they deserve our praise.
Steve Leisman was here last week, though, and again, we've been waiting for this recession to kick in that we've been predicting for over a year. A lot of people have been talking about this, but Steve Leisman was here last week, and he said, it's not where rates are going to end up. They never end. It's a continuing cycle of rates that are continuing to change. And Jim Grant was with us earlier this morning. He made the point that, he's really worried that next week one of the two candidates is going to win. Because what he looks at is fiscal irresponsibility.
I think we could be probably more worried one of the two candidates might not win, and we have a problem on our hands. But
that's a fair point.
The question is.
The question is, either of these candidates are talking about spending increases and rising deficits from here. And if you worry about the bond market today and the deficits we already have, and the deficits either of these candidates will inherit, what happens when they start ramping it up?
Okay, that's a good point. I mean, I think the way to think about this right now, Becky, if I maybe take a step back and then come into your question, which is, you put it the two candidates. We do have a choice right now in a couple of days between two people who we can compare and contrast. As Jim Clyburn often says, I run against the alternative, not against the almighty. So now it's time to look at one of the two. As I make that decision, I think that you were sitting here right in the middle of Times Square in New York City. I think the economy is about, elections like markets are about the future, not about the past. So I look at what the candidates say rather than put a lot of time into what either of the last two administrations has done. What do these two candidates say about what they're going to do? Also, I take them at their word.
Well, that's pretty scary because at their word, we are talking about ratcheting up massive.
Gotcha. We'll come back to that. We've heard lots of reasons why both candidates, quote, can't be believed. Harris has had this liberal to more conservative evolution since 2019. Trump, don't take him literally, or he just saying things for effect. So both sides say you can't listen to the other side. So my view is all I can do is listen to what they say and focus on what their plans are for the future. And then I focus on economic policy. And when I focus on economic policy, because obviously I think of other things in economic policy, for this audience in this setting, economic policy and markets is what you guys want to talk about. And I look at less the specific proposals that are both have a lot of election rhetoric in them, and more the philosophy behind the proposals that will give me some sense of how the person will act when they're in the Oval Office making tough decisions. That's how I think about it, right? So we talked about the most important thing for me is Fed policy. We talked about that earlier. I don't need to go into that at great lengths, but I think Fed independence is extraordinarily important. And if you look at the compare and contrast the two positions, Harris has supported Fed independence and Trump has questioned it and has suggested he might interfere with it. The Fed is the most potent policy and reliable policy tool we have right now. And as I've said frequently, imagine what would happen to fiscal policy if the people making fiscal policy have been making monetary policy in the last 5 years.
Glenn,
so that's kind of boring.
On that point, we've had others who have come in and said that Lael Brainerd and others have been really pushing on the Federal Reserve right now, even though the Biden administration may say that they're in favor of Fed independence, that this is an administration that pushes, just like probably every other administration.
But it's different than the president overtly intervening in the Fed. There's a breakfast, I think it's once a week, once a month, between the Treasury Secretary and the head of the Fed to coordinate policy. I mean, you have to coordinate policy and you have to share views, but it's really about whether or not the president overtly and explicitly intervenes and puts political pressure on the Fed. We talked about the fiscal.
Can I ask this question? Just go straight to it. So Elon Musk, I don't know if you saw this, says that voters should brace for economic hardship. It's interesting. Deep spending cuts in a potential Trump world because of both the tariffs and his plan to scale back government in a meaningful way.
Right.
Do you think that that is a good thing, a bad thing? Do you think that's something the American public should accept? Do you think that there's a way to do it with a scalpel rather than with a hammer? I mean,
fiscal policy sanity is the big issue of our future. As I said a while ago, getting spending down and getting taxes up is something we have to do. Governments don't seem to have an interest right now in doing it. The bond markets will eventually enforce that discipline, like happened to Liz Truss in the UK. And so I think doing it in a way that induces real hardship on people is not politically viable and not, the right approach philosophically. I think you have to think about a 10-year window in which you move your taxes up and your spending down and get to some point in which your deficit is growing at a slower rate than your income, than your economy is growing.
But the markets change their mind like they did with Liz Truss. It's like, you better do this too.
I know, but I think if you get a 10-year plan ahead of the markets, that this is where we're going. So when I was in the Clinton administration, 1993 budget bill, when combined with George Bush's Andrews Air Force Base, led us to balanced budgets in 1996. And by the way, the economy was thriving,
right?
And those were tax rates which were higher than what Harris is proposing today.